It was a constant thing where, this group, anytime I came across them, they had something, they had to say something anytime they saw me.
Ever get physical?
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
The great poet Emily Dickinson once wrote, "Remorse is memory awake. When we open our eyes and realize our missteps and mistakes, that is the day we become self-aware. This newfound awakening can often carry the burden of regret. The weight of regret can become exponentially heavy when we feel unable to rectify the situation. As hard as we try, we struggle in quicksand and can't run away from the pain. All that's left is to sit and stew about the actions that happened so long ago. Too often, hopelessness is a lie that we tell ourselves. Forgiveness comes in many forms and fashions. The strength comes from having the fortitude to either forgive another or forgive yourself." I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Failace, and on this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we welcome back one of my oldest friends, and that's Jay Aponte, to discuss the suffering of bullying. Sort of a revisit episode, but what I put Jay through almost 40 years ago, this is going to be a tough episode for me.
He hopes to put you through that today.
Maybe a little payback. Jay, thanks so much. You traveled all this way.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So Mike has met you before. You've been to a couple of our events, and it's really a nice success story between, in my eyes anyway, maybe not for your eyes, but in my eyes, it's a chance to...
He probably still hates you.
Yeah, of course.
He's just a nice guy.
He's too nice. He hasn't changed a bit in almost 40 years. What is it, like, when did you leave? You were, what, 12? So 46 years?
Well, I figure...
Or 36 years.
Yeah, I figure that was... We left we graduated 88 from there.
Yeah, so okay, so 13... So
about 35 years.
35 years, wow, 35 years, jeez.
Oh, God, we're aging ourselves.
Yeah, no kidding. I got you both beat. We won't even go there.
Before we go any further, let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor, that's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody, and Jay is also a police officer, but we do trust Toyota of Hackensack. So if you're looking for a car, go to toyotahackensack.com, let them find you a car. Jay, little different atmosphere from the last time you came in on episode 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we up to, 120?
Jay will be 129.
Wow.
129, yeah. It's
a couple episodes. We haven't gotten any better, I know that.
No, still the same.
A little more experienced.
Buffoonery. Same concept as always. We take a question from our audience. This week's question comes from Steven-12. Something you did in your youth. Name something you did in your youth that you would never do today. Jay, you're our guest. I'm going to defer to you.
Something I did when I was young that I should not have done, that was I shoplifted. I used to be, let me see. Actually, I still am to this day. I used to steal Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars.
Still to this day?
No, not to this day. Not to this day.
Because you prefaced that, it's still to this day.
No. I love Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars, but I do not steal them. No,
you get a 1970 Dodge Charger Matchbox, it still looks good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still looks
good.
Yeah,
it could be all scuffed up and everything, and it's like, yeah, this still looks good.
Well, we used to crash Matchbox cars back in the day, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You put those Whistler firecrackers in the back and see if you can get it to go forward.
Yes.
Yeah, we used to do all that stuff. Mike, what do you think?
When I was younger, like I said, shoplifting was one of the things that I was thinking of too. I mean, we used to steal football and baseball cards all the time.
At like 11, 10, like 10 and 13, I had this weird thing where I would shoplift condoms. That was back in the day when condoms were out. You know the little, it's not there anymore, the little convenience store at the corner when it went on to the White Horse Pike in Absecon. We were Absecon kids.
I'm trying to remember.
It was like Wonderland or something like that. It was a convenience store, and they used to keep them out there. And I used to have a box. Like, I'm 12 years old. What the hell am I doing with it? What the hell am I doing? Like, I try one on. I'm like, oh, that feels gross. And
but you were at the age where you were exploring, so.
Yeah. So what did you shoplift?
Like I said, mainly football and baseball cards. And, but I think the thing is, I was a wild kid. I used to be like a real risk taker. You know, doing stunts on your bicycle and coming home all scraped up, and you know, anything that was a challenge when I was a kid, I do. Now I'm just too old to do that stuff. I would never be able to do that today.
You know, the funny thing is, I have something similar because when you have the joy of youth, and one of the joys of youth is you don't even think about tomorrow. There's no consequences to your action. So for those people in the the late 80s, maybe early 90s, if you ever were on the Parkway around exit between 38 and 42, there was a rest stop at 42, and you saw somebody going by you riding a wheelie on a motorcycle down the Parkway doing about 70, I apologize. That was one of the things. Listen, I'm filled with regret.
Well, I used to have a Jeep, and I'd take the roof off, and we'd go down the highway with golf balls, and I'd throw the golf balls out, and the guys would stand holding on to the roll bar, try to catch the golf balls as they're going down the highway.
That's a fun game.
Oh yeah,
I never heard of that.
yeah. When a golf ball bounces into the other lane and hits a car, that's when you're
Yeah, it's like, ooh, I think we better chill with this.
So we're of the age where Aliens, the second one, came out. Do you remember this one?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I still got some cuts on my fingers. Did a lot of stupid things. I remember, I hope the statute of limitations, I stole a hot tub out of a pre-construction house, which, what the hell was I doing with a hot tub?
Keeping them with your condoms.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is so we put it in the reeds in the bay, right by the bay. We went back in the morning, and it was fucking gone. Somebody robbed us.
You didn't make a police report, did you?
Somebody stole my swag.
Someone stole our stolen hot tub.
So yeah, you know, but now, so I would never do any of that stuff now for the main reason that now I know I have the burden of knowledge. I know the consequences of all those actions. You imagine getting picked up on a stupid shoplifting call?
Yeah.
Oh, it's ridiculous. That'd be the dumbest thing to, especially nowadays, where you're being scrutinized for every single little thing, whether you're going for a job or, you know, some simple position or whatever, but yet you have that on your record, and it's like, why? You know, it's like, was it worth it?
Well, as a police officer, I've watched police officers walk out and don't even go up to the counter to pay for their coffee. They just, like, they're entitled to do it, and it happens all the time. You remember the one officer who got whacked for taking breakfast sandwiches?
Yeah.
So in New Jersey, this shows you the level of entitlement that some of the officers have. A local convenience store in town used to give them one breakfast sandwich and a cup of coffee every day. That was their thank you to them. Well, this guy goes in there and grabs six of them. So the owner of the place calls up the police department and was nice enough to say, hey, listen, I think you took too many or you didn't pay. Just stop back in when you get a chance. The guy goes, F you. And that was it. He goes, I was getting them for the squad and F you. I'm not doing it. He was too proud. So for $17.30 some odd cents, he lost his job. Yeah. He lost his job.
We had a guy, he was a court officer, and he was going to serve some papers at a place or something like that, and got into an argument with the owner. As the court officer was walking out, he grabbed the candy bar and walked out.
Wow.
Guy reported it. Court officer lost his job over a candy bar.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're our own worst enemies.
You got that right?
Yes, exactly. It's like people need to think, it's like, okay, is this worth it? It's like, okay. And also with the entitlement thing where it's like, okay, thank you for, you could say thank you for being gratuitous to us.
Throw some money down. Throw a tip down.
I always said a free cup of coffee used to cost me more money.
Yes.
And when we were working, a coffee was what, like $1.25 or something like that. I'd throw a $2 tip down and turn around and walk out.
Right. So that way, when the cameras, they all got cameras, even, it's been that way forever. When the camera sees me, I threw money down on the table. Exactly. Whether he took it or not, or whatever he did with it, he's the proprietor of the place. I'm out of that position.
Yes.
Stephen, thank you so much for that question. It was a good question. It was a lot of fun. Keep sending in your questions. We will try to get them on the air. So, man, Jay, it's back in the day when you were on, very few people listen. I'm going to tell you right now, very few people listen. So things have changed. So I want you to give our audience a little bit about yourself.
I'm a law enforcement officer in New York City. I work for one of the one of the agencies that run the bridges and tunnels.
It's a 3-letter agency. He's not allowed to say.
Well, it's a 4-letter. No. Four-letter, actually. But, well, depending on who's listening. Let me see. I'm a father of 3. 2 kids in college. I have one that's a junior in high school right now. And thankful that, God has blessed me with good kids. That's for sure.
And you're heading into the sunset of your career.
Yes, I have about a year to go. God willing.
1 foot out the door.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You getting that short time syndrome yet?
Yes. It is kicking in big time.
It's like, you want me to sharpen a pencil? Are you out of your mind?
But the thing is, in my nature, though, I'm always there to back up my officers, my fellow coworkers and stuff, because you know what? I expect them to do that for me as well. And, especially I got guys that say, like, if they're new to the place, they need to learn how to access this, or what do I do in this situation or whatever. And I gladly show them. Them because I've had some where it's like, figure it out yourself.
We try not to make the same mistakes that the older generation, when we first came on, made, where, fuck you, kid.
The dinosaurs.
Yeah, you don't know.
Kid, you'll learn.
It's like,
figure it out.
It's like we used to be called the FNGs. The
fucking new guys. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. We all know what that is. We're past the 3-minute mark. You can say whatever you want.
And I, to this day, I gladly wear that. I wear that on my sleeve,
The old timers used to say, "Come on, kid, you're right out of the academy. You should know what to do."
Well,
didn't you learn that in the academy?
So the funny thing is this whole table here. I mean, just think about how odd this is. We are those dinosaurs.
Yeah. That
when we came on, you remember the first time you met a guy from? Well, you're in a bigger agency. One of the guys that was on your department but retired, and somebody introduced you. Oh yeah, he used to be on. He's been retired, and you just look at the guy like you're an old man. Now we're the old man.
Yeah, I think about it, and it's been a blur. I still remember orientation.
Yeah,
I still remember when I first got onto the facility. Working the different shifts before I ended up picking that I wanted to work day tours. And now, in the detail that I'm in, I'm working rotating tours. So my sleep pattern is...
Oh, yeah. Been there, done that.
So after a long and extensive hunt, I found Jay after about 30 years. And it was a very, very long hunt. So Jay was in...
That'd be like bittersweet, too.
It was... Well, do you have any idea how many Jesus Apontes are on Facebook? I mean, it's staggering. Just look it up. I challenge everybody, just go look it up, and you will see the amount of research. I was like a law clerk looking through these things. So I finally make contact with Jay, and he's gracious enough to come in on episode 12. Into my house on audio. Mike, I don't know why you weren't there. I still think Mike you were in contract negotiations.
Probably, yeah. The money wasn't right yet.
He was holding out for more money.
So I held out from $0 to $0.
He's like, I had to go through his agent. It was a whole thing. But we're here to talk about the suffering of bullying, because at the crux of this, one of the most shameful things in my life that I have ever done, that I've lived with every single day of my life with regret, was we went to a school named Emma Seatley's. I guess that would be like a middle school now.
Yeah. ECA. And Jay was the only. I think you were the only, or one of very few Spanish kids in the school. And
it's like a prime target when you're a kid.
Tortured this poor man. Tortured him.
He's still torturing me now. He hasn't changed a bit.
If you go back and listen to that episode, it was a very humbling episode for me, because one of the things that I admitted was things were very jacked up at home for me. And I know that's not an excuse, but what it did when I went to school and I saw somebody who I perceived as a target, I let out the aggression that I couldn't let out at home.
Your home rage.
Yeah, and I unfortunately, you were the landing pad for some really, really horrible things. The first time you got that message on Facebook from me, what'd you think?
it was a blast from the past. Like I got chills just thinking about it now. Because it was.
I think it was something along the lines of. Did you go to Absecon schools?
Yes. Yeah, it's like. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. You were asking if I had gone to the Absecon schools.
Because the sheer mass of Jesus Apontes was just crazy.
And that was, I believe, at the time, that was when I was coming back from my aunt's funeral. I believe that was in
in Vineland.
In Vineland, yeah,
Vineland.
I was coming back up north. I was with my daughter. We went to Chick-fil-A down in.
I remember this whole day. Do you remember what you ate?
Yeah, we. I don't know. I don't remember what we had.
Yeah, that was the day. That was the day he's looking at his phone. He says, "I fucking got him. I fucking finally got this guy."
He looked down and said, "What does this jerk off want?"
It was quite a surprise to, and like I said, it was a blast from the past. But I didn't. Again, at our age now, it's like I'm at peace. You know, it's let bygones be bygones at that point because we're adults now.
I remember right where I was when I got your message back. So I was working in the job that I'm working in now, and I'm sitting right by our administrative assistant. We're just talking, shooting the breeze, and a message pops up on Facebook. And I remember I started tearing up, and she had asked me, she goes, "What's the matter?" And I told her the whole backstory of it. It was, and then I talked to you on the phone. And you said the worst thing in the world to me, like really the worst thing in the world to me. I think I started the phone call, Mike, with like, I'm really, really sorry about how I behaved back then. Do you remember what you said to me?
Yes, I forgive you.
Motherfucker, man.
He wanted a beat down.
I said, dude, this was 30-something years ago. It's like, I'm not going to be harboring,
any
bad
ill
feelings
will.
like that. It's not like, it's not like you went and toilet paper my house and egged my house on mischief night or anything like that. It's nothing to that sort. I mean, it was that, it's a different time. It was a different time back then where, the issue of bullying was not as prominent as it is today.
It's not as prevalent as it is today.
Where, people are.
You should have punched me in the mouth. You really, in all honesty, you should have.
I'm hoping he does tonight.
Look at that smile.
That's not in my nature. It's gotta be really something screwed up in order for me to, even entertain the thought of doing that, because it's just, again, at that point, it's like, okay, is it worth it? Is it worth the aneurysm or the whatever? It's like, no. It's like.
When I first reached out to you, did any of the old feelings come back? Because I'm sure you back then, if you put yourself into that 12 and 13-year-old kid, I'm sure you harbored some bad feelings towards me.
I mean,
and you said I wasn't even the worst.
No, you weren't.
Yeah,
you weren't even the worst of the small group that was involved in the harassment and stuff.
Bunch of thugs in Absecon, huh?
Just redneck white kids who
stealing condoms and harassing Hispanic people,
riding their bikes and lighting fires.
Absecon was a small town, so
I had to find something to do.
It was so difficult for me because you had left school. Now, before we get into that, do you remember some of the things that were done to you?
Oh yeah, I was, between the name calling, it was the name calling and. It was a constant thing where, this group, anytime I came across them, they had something, they had to say something anytime they saw me.
Ever get physical?
Once. There was once it was during gym class.
No, Mrs. Sabbath's class, because that was me. I know it right now because I'm so ashamed of it, but if I don't get it out.
But we didn't, us personally, we didn't get physical. I remember it was someone else. And I had confronted them because they were the main. No, even though he was
one of them. He was one of them.
And but he was, it was basically like, what is the problem that you have with me? Being at 12 years old, I got to the point where it's like, okay, this is aggravating enough. Yeah. It's like I haven't bothered this person, never did anything, and
You didn't, because
and I was,
what you see right now, Mike, is this. He hasn't changed a bit.